The people who bought cars in recent years are drowning in negative equity. 39% of people who bought cars in 2022 are underwater, according to CarEdge, and the average amount is by $6,838. About a quarter of them are underwater by $10,000 or more, and 8.5% are underwater by $15,000 or more. Now, I don't think these numbers really highlight how bad things are, because if a moderate chunk of these people with negative equity tried to sell their vehicles and actually realize their losses, that would cause much more negative equity by crashing the used market. So the real extent of the problem may never be realized, in my opinion. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Appreciate you guys tuning in as always. If you enjoy this type of content, make sure to click like and subscribe. Going back to the pandemic, we all knew automakers were screwing customers. The markups, the price gouging, and overall just taking advantage of people who needed cars. Now, I understand supply and demand is part of capitalism, and when supply is low and demand is high, prices will go up. The issue I have is that even when supply started to come back and dealers knew prices were not based off of market conditions, they still continue to try to screw customers and push overpriced vehicles. And much of the negative equity is from the peak of the prices, not the peak of the shortages. And if you're someone who bought around 2022, you're probably in the worst position. We're talking about $10,000 to $15,000 worth of it. This is probably a large part of the reason why the used car market is in as bad of a shape as it is, because many people who normally trade in cars and try to get into new ones simply can't. This basically keeps prices high and quality low in the used market. Now, here's the thing. I think a lot of these people with high negative equity will be forced to sell their cars as their warranty closes in on expiry. I'm talking about people who have 5 or more year loan terms. If they know their car is having a lot of mechanical issues right now that has to be taken care of by warranty, they're not going to risk being in a situation with high monthly payments and a bunch of repair bills once the warranty expires. So I think 2027 could start seeing more inventory in the used market because of all these people with negative equity trying to sell these cars and just eating the losses to avoid being in that situation. Now, the real problem with all of this negative equity is what it shows about the car market. Automakers have completely changed how they operate. They simply no longer have any interest in building mutual business relationships with either dealers or customers, because prior to the pandemic, the average car price in the US was about $37,000, give or take, and only about 7% of customers got denied new auto loans. Now, the average price right now is about $50,000, and about 20% get denied access to new auto loans, according to the latest numbers. Automakers don't have any issues putting their customers under a lot of financial stress, because what the $50,000 average price indicates is that customers are stretching their budgets just to get into a car. Now, at the time where the used car market is overpriced and awful, you would think automakers would try to take advantage of that, price their vehicles accordingly, and get a buttload of sales. But no, they see this as an opportunity to take advantage of a consumer with limited options. It's sad, but that's just how they view the situation. And I don't think this is exclusive to customers. It's the same with how automakers view their relationship with dealers. I see so many dealerships saddled with rows and rows of inventory, a lot of it from the previous year. These automakers are basically forcing these dealers to take in high margin inventory that they'll struggle to sell, all the while reducing the lower cost vehicles that dealers can make a higher profit on. Keep in mind, with lower cost cars, dealers generally can tack on more markups as well as financing and insurance costs to make better profits. But with the automakers getting rid of lower cost options, it is cutting an important lifeline for a lot of these dealers. Now keep in mind, I'm not on the side of dealers. I'm not saying that they're good or that they haven't been taking advantage of customers. I'm just trying to point out the realities of the current market. What I'm saying is that this new strategy of high volume, high cost leaves very limited options for a lot of these dealers in terms of how they can deal with their customers. Keep in mind, even prior to the pandemic, dealers were just as awful as they are now. But the difference was automakers had a business strategy that fostered competition amongst dealers and lower prices on cars. Now that's all gone, and the business relationship between dealers and automakers, in my opinion, has never been worse. This, I think, started to show when Stellantis dealers were publicly calling out the automaker for basically saddling them with tons of unmovable inventory and forcing them to eat massive losses. Eventually, the CEO of Stellantis had to step down and the company had to give assistance to dealerships, not out of choice, mind you, but out of necessity, with their day supply reaching something as high as 150 for brands like Ram. At that point, the dealerships just can't take in any more inventory because there's just no room, let alone the cost of the floor plan and everything. So Stellantis was basically forced to cut down on 2025 production by 100,000 units. The point I'm trying to go for is, I believe that there's a lot of animosity between dealers and automakers because of this new margin-based strategy. Automakers simply just don't care about the dealer's ability to move metal. The inventory levels they force dealers to take has no relation with what can actually be sold at current prices. Automakers want to have their cake and eat it too by telling dealers to take inventory levels of the pre-pandemic days, but with prices of the pandemic times. It just doesn't work. Now, an unfortunate consequence of this is that this has also affected the relationship between dealers and customers. Dealerships no longer care about building relationships with customers or customer loyalty. How can they if automakers are taking away any cheap options for consumers? They know there are fewer consumers who can afford to get approved for new cars. They know the loans are going to be lengthy and pricey, so it's hard for most dealers to even get customers in a car, let alone become a repeat buyer. This is why dealers don't care about saddling customers with negative equity. Because let's be honest, if these dealerships cared in any way about building a rapport with customers, would they allow them to sign off on 60, 70, 80-month loan terms? Would they agree to sign them off on $1,000 monthly payments? Would they be trying to sell these EVs that have atrocious resale value to customers? But this all comes from the top. The industry is rotten because of the automakers who dictate the direction of the market. Now, I think this is going to cause more headaches for the automakers in the long run. I mean, we all know Ford is having problems. Stellantis had a ton of financial problems in 2024, and yet both of them are keeping their MSRPs high. They still seem to try to focus on short-term profits. And this is what the high levels of negative equity show. The car market is rotten and it starts from the top, and I'm not sure if things will change anytime soon. But anyways, that's just my opinion. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure to click like and subscribe. I'll see you guys in the next one.